For the last Sunday in February, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, 3 simple words: casino, religion, scandal. Don't talk about those at home. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
Glad you could be with us as we flip the calendar over into spring in short order. We're going to begin with the news from the state, but don't worry, we're going to get to that major scandal at City Hall in Atlanta, which seems to be spreading by the week. But first, at the state capitol, some deadlines, some timing. I got in my mail a placard, a flyer that tells me that the casino is only 18 miles away from the Georgia state line. Therefore, the money, that is the North Carolina one. Therefore, the money should stay here in Georgia, right? And we should have gambling right here in River City. But, Phil, it doesn't sound to me like it's moving the way it's supposed to.
No, in fact, tomorrow, Monday, is a big day in the Senate because that's when the author of this destination resort casino
Oh, by the way, the
bill,
commercials on TV say destination casino resorts.
That's right. But tomorrow is a big day, as I was about to say, because if they can't get that through the Senate committee, it is dead for this session. Now, crossover day is
Another week.
Another week, Friday. But what's happening, and Brandon Beach, the author, is going to do a 2-tracked approach this time. Remember, we talked about the enabling legislation last week. And, of course, we talked, remember, about the referendum. You have to have the second piece, the constitutional amendment and the vote by the people, and then the local entity where that would be located. So they're trying to get the ratios together. Now, you just held that up a minute ago, and it says the Committee to Save the Hope Scholarship. Well, you know, they keep cutting the money to the Hope Scholarship every time we see these revised bills. So Monday will be a big day. It'll be interesting.
I still don't think it's going to happen. I will say this. The casinos are mounting a pretty good assault, not only the direct mail pieces that are expensive, heavy television advertising, and I see casino executives speaking at civic groups.
Now the opposition, opposition is also raising its head.
And the governor has weighed in as well on this issue, right?
Yeah, he doesn't sound like he's real keen on it.
I don't think that he's real keen on it. He has not been up to now.
Well, according to Jim Galloway in the AJC, it said that Brandon Beach went to talk to the chief of staff and apparently had a go-ahead to try to do something.
Well, here's what I think it is. I think Governor Deal's opposition to casinos is out there. If the enabling legislation were to pass, and the people voted in the fall of 2018, because it has to be an election year, then casino gambling would start after Governor Nathan Deal had left office. Right. So I think that's what he's saying.
His hands
not on my watch.
Approach. A hands-off approach, not on my watch. I'll let the people decide. Absolutely.
And now, another thing, there's maybe some mixed feelings among the tourism industry too, because they don't want to have a casino draw from the other attractions that are in town.
Now, another issue on which the governor has definitely spoken out is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA as it's known for short. And Senator Marty Harbinson of Tyrone, which is in Fayette County, introduced a simple bill, as they say down at the Capitol, and it is simple. It says Georgia will pass into law what the feds passed into law in 1993, and oh, by the way, one Congressman, Nathan Deal, voted for that language in federal law, which protects against discrimination based on religion.
And
but the governor said, no way, no how now.
That was then, and this is now.
It is, and it was passed for completely different reasons, to actually protect people and not to discriminate against folks. And I think that the governor and others can see through that ruse and oppose it, as he did very courageously last year. And we've seen what's happened in North Carolina as a result of them passing a similar bill.
Well, you know, this is the renegade in me, and why I could never be an office holder, and why I'm a newsman. The religious freedom language, I can take it or leave it. I'd prefer to have it. But what I cannot stand is the blackmail by groups such as the NCAA, withholding sports championships, all that sort of thing. Right. It's just outrageous
the
that the
NBA and
governor
others, and I don't think that it's blackmail at all. I think it's a question of whether or not they want to be associated with a state enacting those kinds of laws. And this is private
Well, that's
business.
one thing to speak out,
Dick,
Jeff. It's
and
one
they
thing
have
to
a
speak out, but
choice to go and
actually
spend their
boycott.
money and invest where they want to invest. Right.
I mean, that's an age-old tradition. That's American as apple pie.
Well,
It's a
let's go
boycott.
back to why we're having this. After that federal law was passed back in 1993, then there was a court decision that said, okay, wait a minute, this is not going to be applying to states. So that's why you're having, what, is it a dozen states now passing these RFRA-like laws? It's being debated.
All the states around us have them.
Well, that's right. And so what's
make it
happening,
right.
I think, is the feds, and this is what the legislators are saying here in Atlanta, the feds need to go back now. If they want to retweak that 1993 law, do it, but leave us alone.
Well, it's outrageous. The NCAA actually advertises on a publication I read, Politico, and they talk about how inclusive they are. Baloney, they're about excellence. You're about winning championships. You don't care about inclusiveness when you're trying to be North Carolina and win the national basketball championship. Come on.
I think that you do
That's
care
as American as apple pie.
I think you care a great deal about inclusiveness, and they should. And I'm glad that they do.
All right.
Thank you.
The one bill that it's not going to have any immediate impact did pass the Senate. I think it's important, the acknowledgement of mass transit. The Senate passed a bill that will create a transit council. We've talked about it before. It'll be a big, unwieldy body. We won't really hear from them until 2018. That's okay, but at least we'll get transit being discussed at the state capitol.
It's a good step, and I think they want to give more power to Greta. Which we should have a lead dog in terms of the transportation agencies.
Yes, I agree, and I think they're already running the buses. Let's see what happens. But MARTA has turned its ship around, and so we'll see how it all goes. Sanctuary campuses, that legislation is moving. The driver's license,
passed
immigration
the House overwhelmingly.
stuff. Mr. Immigration, or let me phrase that. I made one of those press mistakes. You are Mr. Anti-illegal immigration.
Thank you.
Illegal is the word that always gets omitted.
That's right, and that's why Representative Earl Earhart did, there's no such thing, as he says, as a sanctuary campus. These are outlaw campuses, and they shouldn't be tolerated. And there is a very good bill by Representative Jesse Petrie of Savannah, and it would put a tax on wire transfers that go out of state. So we'll see where that goes.
Wow. Well, there's one good piece of news from the Trump administration, that he is not going to bother the Dreamers in terms of the deportation effort. So that's
far,
a good
he's
thing.
delayed any decision.
Just going to deport their parents.
Okay, and one final legislative
Since
item.
they're here illegally, yeah.
One final legislative item, and I know I'm getting the wrap-up sign. The Georgia State House Democrats this past week honored and gave a standing ovation to one Burl Ellis, who just got out of prison for his great leadership in DeKalb County.
Was in prison for no good reason,
right.
Because a judge would not grant.
I'll go with you on overcharge.
An appeal bond.
I'll go with you on overcharge and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But the Democrats just can't get it right. You don't do that if you're trying to be a statewide party.
Why not?
You don't give a standing ovation to a guy.
You don't give a standing ovation to a guy who is out there raising money the way politicians do. The way all of them do.
Right.
All of them do.
He was a little too heavy-handed, is the best I can say.
Dick,
on
here's
that.
An appeal bond.
It's
a simple thing.
Here's a footnote to what you're talking about, too. The young Democrats over in Augusta, my old stomping grounds, they had to scrape around for a major speaker to speak to them. Who did they get but the disgraced former Senate Majority Leader Charles Walker? I mean, come on.
He did almost a decade in prison.
Well, he did a decade in prison for corruption. Is that the best they can do as a role model?
Well, they could have a panel with Burl Ellis and Charles Walker.
I wouldn't even put those two together. Burl Ellis did not commit a crime. His conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court.
On a technicality, and he was supposed to be retried.
No, he went to prison because you had a judge who wouldn't grant an appeal bond while his case was being appealed.
Right.
If he had, he wouldn't have lost 8 months with his family.
Well,
and it's
again,
just that
I think he was overcharged, but I don't think I'd make him the center of all my attention if I were trying to build a political party. I mean, you could have John Evans, bring him in, give him a standing ovation. He went to prison too, right? So, all right, when we get back, we'll get to what I think everybody wants to hear about, and that's the scandal at Atlanta City Hall. We'll give you as much information as we can provide. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
As they used to say in the newsroom, tongues were wagging this past week at City Hall in Atlanta when the FBI arrived and visited the Office of Procurement and took the telephone and computer of the head of the Office of Procurement. And then an hour later or so, that man was fired, Jeff, and escorted out of City Hall by city personnel, not by law enforcement.
My impression is that there was a reverse. Is that he was fired and escorted from City Hall, and then folks came in and with a subpoena and seized those items.
So who is Adam Smith? That's the question. Adam Smith is a procurement director.
He is.
Oversaw millions of dollars of contracts. He was there a long time.
Over two administrations.
2003.
Right.
That's right.
He's got first-rate credentials.
He does.
He was a partner at Holland and Knight, a big law firm, a silk stocking firm. And now he's gone and gone quietly. But at the same time, those 1.4 million pages of documents are out there, and I think most of them probably came under his purview?
Well, certainly, because they were documents and contracts, folks doing business with the city of Atlanta, and all that goes through his office. What we don't know is, you know, we keep throwing around these words, scandal and all that stuff. We really don't know what we're looking at. I don't even know that the feds know what they're looking at.
We're looking at a bribery investigation.
They have two contractors who have pleaded guilty.
Therefore, it's a scandal.
Can you let me finish, please? You have two contractors who have pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit a bribe. Now, if you are a U.S. attorney, do you want somebody who pleads guilty to conspiracy to commit a bribe, or somebody who pleads guilty to bribery or accepting a bribe? Neither one of those has materialized, guys. So let's just stay where we are. If the feds come out with some additional charges, fine. All right. We'll deal with them. But right now, let's look at what's actually on the table.
Well, let's look
and we don't know what else they had on E.R. Mitchell.
Let's look at what's on the table, Jeff, because I think we're in the beginnings of a widespread investigation. It's a shame. Big article in the New York Times this past week tarnishing the city of Atlanta. You know, it's funny, Adam Smith, that name rings a bell because of the old capitalist who talked of the invisible
original
hand,
free market.
The invisible hand. And of course, we see the invisible hand here. Remember the core, I've referred to this on the gang for several years. One of the dirtiest things that happened in bidding and contracting was the Corey Airport Services advertising contract. A federal judge, and Adam Smith was right in the middle of this, a federal judge declared that there was evil intent on the part of City Atlanta in the procurement process to screw over the Corey Airport Services and to give it to another favored bidder.
You know, you started all of this stuff. First of all, I don't know
Adam
what Corey
Smith
has to
well,
do
you
with
better go back
that's
and
going
research
on right now. But you started all this by saying that we're in the beginning of an investigation, and there's a story in the paper on Friday that says that the FBI was interviewing people in 2015, Phil, 2 years ago. We know that the FBI has been looking into this for years, and all we've got are two folks who are pleading because they may have had some tax issues or other problems.
So far, sometimes, you know, Bill Campbell took years to get all the information.
Now, Alexis,
well, yes.
we promised we'd talk about
of bribery.
Where else they're going. Hi, Alexis.
Yes.
Your turn. The connections that were new this week, Mitzi Bickers we knew about. She's the pastor who lives rather well, and she's the subject of apparently a great deal of investigation in Jackson, Mississippi, and we know she lost her job at Atlanta City Hall. The stories out of Jackson look like classic Atlanta bid rigging, where the minority contracts are adjusted to favor the politically
classic Atlanta bid rigging. That's not.
Jackson is Jackson, and Atlanta is Atlanta.
But it's also a mischaracterization. There's no classic bid rigging going on in Atlanta.
Right.
Well, yes, there is.
Well, there have been numerous cases of out-of-court settlements because companies all too often don't have the resources to challenge the city in court. They sue, and you have a pattern. In fact, Creative Loafing actually did a very good series a few years ago on how these contractors just get out-of-court settlements. You know, just go away.
You're exactly right. So a lot of losers sue.
I think we're going to see this investigation point to the woman who is the head of the watershed department. She was hired from Jackson, Mississippi. There's questions about contracts over there. And I think Keisha Powell is going to be in the headlights real soon. Do you?
I don't know that she will be. I mean, she came from Jackson, Mississippi, but she's only been here, what, 6 months or something? It has nothing to do with this.
And the feds have been looking into those allegations in Jackson for 2 years at least. At least. So,
and there haven't been any indictments.
So how is she going to get in the headlights in this? I don't understand that.
I'm going to explain.
She did. She fixed contracts and gave Mitzi Bickers one.
Well, then if she fixed contracts in Jackson, then we should be talking about this in Jackson. We should be the Jackson gang.
Well, they are.
Instead of the Georgia gang.
Are you through? Because let's talk about the very important department, the human resources or whatever they talk about. If a mayor or if a city administration controls human resources, you can intimidate and shut up anybody from being a whistleblower. All of us have been in journalism and know the value of whistleblowers, but they're being shut down. And this is why it takes so long, because people are scared stiff. These are their pensions.
You got to get
my only point to you, Phil, is that we're not in the beginning of anything. Well, the feds have been investigating this for a long time, and we are journalists, and what we ought to do is stick with the facts.
Let me rephrase it.
And we know what those are, and we know what they are not.
I'm going to rephrase it. We're at the beginning of people starting to flip. That's where we're at the beginning at.
And I'll give you some facts as I go out. And those facts include what reporters told us this week, that E.R. Mitchell and the others were vastly overcharging for the services they provided to the city. They were inflating their prices, and we didn't even get to that, but that was new stuff this week, and that's why I think they're only at the beginning of this major investigation. Over in DeKalb, nothing criminal, but some interesting news about a giant sports complex and what it really means. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
In DeKalb County this week, major news, an announcement of a $200 million sports park on 190 acres over near Stonecrest Mall. But more questions really raised than have been answered. As a former soccer dad, I'm all for it.
Right.
This area desperately needs a major soccer center to host regional and national tournaments. There would be 17 soccer fields there. It would be a great thing. How do you pay for it?
Land is there.
The land is there and it's relatively inexpensive.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful location, close to Augusta, relatively
on
20
the way
minutes
to Augusta.
from 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta, and it would be a great.
But how do you pay
for
it? How do you pay for it, and who's behind it?
Well, I think that you pay for it if you can, obviously if you can get the teams there, right?
It has to be
and you get the fans
teams
there.
No, the youth teams are already waiting.
Right.
It has to be a combination,
Sponsorships, you
maybe
can pay
public
for
and
it.
private partnership.
One of the guys said if you could have 40 weekend tournaments there a year, and I believe that based on my own experience as a parent. And there are great soccer clubs around here who could do that. But I worry that they're using, the front people on this appear to be from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I just don't know if that produces enough money to raise $200 million or sustain it. But we're going to find out more about that. Let's look quickly at Cobb County, where they're learning every week things cost more. Instead of the original 10 officers that were going to be patrolling SunTrust Park during the upcoming Braves season, now they're talking maybe 60. Somebody's got to pay for that, and I'm not sure it's the Braves. All right. That's Cobb County.
Cobb has always needed more. They've always needed more law officers anyway. They've had some cuts.
Well, they have had some problems. That's right. That's right. And the police chief made a big deal out of it. Public safety director.
That's right. He quit and because he wasn't getting the resources.
All right, in the Atlanta mayor's race this week, a new entrant, one that surprised me. John Eves, the Fulton County chairman, jumps into the mayor's race on Friday. Why? It's a crowded field. It's competent people. I'm not saying he's incompetent. He's certainly done a decent job at Fulton County.
Right.
But why, Jeff? Why?
Well, I mean, he's got obviously he has the name recognition. I think that he's run at least 3 times successfully throughout the county, and that covers all of the city. He can say that he's been a bridge builder and that he has helped turn things around in Fulton County. And so that's the why, but it is a very crowded field of very credible candidates, very experienced candidates. I know that it's an open seat and there are a lot of people out there who want to be mayor, but it's getting really, really crowded to the point that I think you could see a race where, people are getting 10, 12 percentage percentage points of the overall vote, and they're almost in a position to get a runoff.
Well, you know, that's also, go ahead, Alexis, quickly.
No, I was just going to say I had a chance to have a brief conversation with him yesterday, ask him that very question. And he said that he thinks because of his experience at the county and because of the regional reach that he has in working with other mayors in the county as well as other county chair people in the region, that he has an opportunity.
But the votes this time are all in the city of Atlanta,
Well,
not
politically
the county.
too, just politically, the black vote is being splintered even more so, and it's going to just really, I still say this, I think if Mary Norwood keeps her momentum and has some minority support, it could be Mary Norwood in a runoff versus the anti-Mary Norwood, whoever that might be.
Well, so far, initially, Peter Amon was saying that it would be Mary and Caesar that he was running against.
But do you think, Alexis, do you think the scandal, I mean, he was COO of the city of Atlanta. Do you think that this is hurting him?
I don't know. Well, I guess as the investigation continues.
We got to get out. If you're COO, you surely should be knowing about procurement.
Switching quickly to another very crowded field. We have 18 candidates now qualified for the 6th Congressional District in a special election.
Speaking of a crowded
Democrats
field.
think they're going to steal one. We saw this week that they're going to put in all kinds of field operatives and money, I presume, to back a 30-year-old fellow named John Ossoff. That's what it looks like.
That seems to be the direction.
In the meantime, the Republicans, speaking of flyers, Bob Gray from Johns Creek hitting the mails, Dan Moody hitting the mail. These are serious candidates up there.
That's right, and of course that'll be all decided in the runoff.
Serious.
That'll all be decided in the runoff too. It's still a very Republican district. Tom Price got 63% of the vote last time.
Trump won by 1% of the vote. We know how it is with incumbents in Congress, right? Congress stinks, but my congressman is great.
Yeah, but
everybody does that, so he got his 63%.
They're all
the problem, the thing now though, is that Tom Price isn't on the ballot. It's an open seat, and it's a nonpartisan race.
Well, I think we've got to ask the question too about
the
the Democrat, John Ossoff. Does he live in the district? We'll see.
I don't know. Maybe we should ask him.
When we come back, we'll wrap it up with winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And I'm going to begin with you, Philip.
Well, great. Well, we talked a little bit earlier in the broadcast about State Representative Earl Earhart. He's my winner for doing this bill. We just cannot have colleges be sanctuaries for people that are violating the law, and we just have to restore the rule of law. That's what our president wants to do, and I'm glad to see it here. You know, the loser, did you see the story this past week about the Atlanta Federal Prison, and there was that hole in the wall, and you've got prisoners going back and forth, and obviously talk about...
They were escaping into the prison?
That's right. They were escaping into the prison.
And they were going out for pizza.
And they were going out for pizza, and I think far more than pizza, you know, everything from drugs and cell phones.
Fascinating story.
And it was, and it also points to, we have a problem with our state correction system too. We've had a warden fired because of things going in and out, including cell phones.
Let's make it clear, that is a federal system, and it was APD that put up the cameras.
That's right.
Right? It was the Atlanta Police Department.
And they're a winner. They're a winner. Thank you, Jeffrey.
There you go.
They're a winner.
Alexis, you go.
Okay, first I want to recognize Lottie Watkins. She passed this week. She was a pioneer black businesswoman, the first black woman to have a real estate license in Atlanta, and she was also a member of the legislature early in the 1970s.
That's
so
right.
She'll be missed. Also, Savannah State University Tigers became the first historically black college and university team to win a national cheerleading championship. So congratulations to them. Rufer Jones, the mother of State Rep Vernon Jones, was Miss A.G. Rhodes Wesley Woods for 2017.
You're kidding.
How about
Vernon's
that?
mother was a beauty.
She is. She is currently. She's the reigning queen.
All right, Jeffrey, what do you have?
How about that? Well, I think I want to make Michael Thurman a winner because he has done a lot of work on this whole water meter situation out there, and there are no easy answers. He's made that very clear. This is something that's been building over many, many years, and he's getting behind it. It's not going to be easy to fix, but there is going to be a fix. In the meantime, you know, he assures that there are some 95% accuracy in those water bills, but 5%, you know, considering the number of meters out there, is still a lot. So he's going to get to the bottom of that.
All right, I will make as a winner this week Johnny Isaacson, because he had back surgery at St. Joe's Hospital. Hope he's well. He doesn't need that on top of all the other things, but best wishes to Johnny Isaacson. I will keep my eye, as always, on Chicago, where on Wednesday, There were 7 murders, city of Chicago, Democrats. 7 murders, a bunch of others shot. They're ahead of last year's unbelievable record pace. It's carnage out there, and Donald Trump is right. And the Hawks head into the last part of the season with really a mixed record. I can't get excited about them, and I can't condemn them, okay? And in DeKalb County, I want that soccer complex, but I wonder who's really behind it. And I think that's going to begin to unfold in the weeks ahead. See you next week on The Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.